This is, of course, a result of being a mere spectator to all the developments in Syria and all the developments in Iraq. An intervention in Syria was not wanted since the beginning. Syria is led by a tyrant, and this tyrant has always been protected. What we have to do to move him out of there was never thought about. I always talked about this with our friends. There are things Russia should do. There are things Iran should do. They are all countries that are supporting them. And I say this openly here because I tell them as well. I must say it because I am in pain. They are giving them armed support, financial support, and they are allowing this administration to continue, and they are trying to get rid of the opposition there. Isn't Daesh in cooperation with the regime right now? Daesh's biggest supporter right now is the regime, and those who make the effort to keep this regime standing are the ones who carry this responsibility. Why do they feel themselves in debt to Assad? We are facing a Syria that is destroyed, burned, and its own people wiped out. They are still trying to support such a Syrian president who supports a separatist terror organization. I've talked to them about this. I told them, this cannot go on. I told them, come withdraw your support, remove your hand, and he'll fall in 24 hours.
How has recent Iranian diplomacy helped, if at all, shape a solution for Syria?
Unfortunately, Iran is standing by Assad on this issue. I have discussed with Mr. Putin as well this issue at length at the Games in Baku. I saw Mr. Putin differently, and we assigned our foreign ministers to work together. But then statements from Russia that followed truly shocked me. I am having trouble understanding this.
Mr. President, in the past you have insisted that joining the coalition fight against ISIS or Daesh wasn't in Turkey's interest. So I am wondering what has changed. And since signing up to the coalition, just how many strikes have Turkish forces launched against Daesh positions as opposed to Kurdish positions in Iraq and Syria?
You know that from the very beginning we have been against this, and we are still against it. Our fight is not only against Daesh, we are fighting against the PYD, the PKK, and the DHKPC, all of these terror organizations. And unfortunately, our Western friends have always left us alone in this fight. The European Union, which declared that the PKK is a terror organization, has always looked the other way, as members of the PKK live in the countries that they are tied to. Unfortunately, they've even given opportunities to their leaders to make shows of force, and they are continuing to do so. Next to that, the fight against Daesh is ongoing, which is a coalition with countries such as America, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Jordan, and even France and England. At the same time, our fight against the PKK, which is our own internal threat of terror, is continuing and will continue, because we must fight this until its end.
I want to talk about the threat of the PKK and domestic terrorism to national security. But just before I do that, your opponents argue that a safe zone in Syria, which is what you have been pushing for, is an attempt to simply stop Kurds from forming their own territory. Your response, if you will.
A complete lie. There is no truth to it. The operation there is the PYD's policy to open up the Mediterranean by occupying Syria's north. We see this, and they are doing this, of course. Look at when Kobani happened. 220,000 people left for Turkey. Who hosted these 220,000? We hosted them. And now 80,000 of the 220 from Kobani have returned, but the rest are still in Turkey. This means that we are hosting them, showing them hospitality despite the difficulties, and we will continue to do so.
I I want to talk about what you believe is the greater threat to national security today. Is it the PKK terror organization or ISIS?
We of course define all terror organizations as threats, but the PKK is the primary threat. The PKK is the #1 threat in terms of terror in our country. Daesh for us is a threat that is outside the country. If we have to list a priority, it'd be like that. We have lost 50,000 people in our fight against the PKK until today. We've lived with this threat in our country. Therefore, the PKK is the #1 threat, and Daesh is the second. We will continue to fight against both with determination.